Hello, and welcome to another AFIVA analysis video with me, Paul Ulele. On today's episode, we do have Timothy Nuy. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He is the founder of Fin, formerly known as Finclusion, started in 2018. This company provides smart financing for Africans in the Southern African region. They're also available in Mauritius. They're also available too in East Africa, and their various products include credit, insurance, financial wellness, and many more. Timothy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, I hope I pronounced the name correctly. Nuy, is it?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's fine.
Okay, you always have to make sure, have to keep up to the standard. So let's start from the beginning, because I read up your background, and you started with a German company called the African Development Center. Was that what brought you into this whole fintech space? Because the fintech space in Africa is growing. So is that your forte into this new story?
Yes, well, that was definitely the first project that I did in Africa. So it was a German private equity company. We bought banks in Southern Africa, so Botswana, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia, all the way up to East Africa, Tanzania, and then Nigeria. In 2014, we sold that business to Atlas Mara, which was Bob Diamond's vehicle for Africa. And at that point in time, I moved on and I joined a digital lender called GetBucks, which we listed on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange in 2016. We built it out to be in 13 African countries, 5 of which were banking licenses. I did the full banking expansion. We raised over 100 million euros. But ultimately, I left in sort of early 2018 because I had a bit of a difference of opinion on the further growth and then build out of the group. And that's when I started, then Finclusion, now Fin. Really building a credit solution for Africa the way I thought it should be designed, and kind of, following our beliefs for implementing that strategy.
So let's talk about Fin. I was about to say Finclusion, but Fin. And you recently changed the name in December of 2022.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So pretty much working on fixing, a credit solution for Africa. How's the journey been like? How's the journey been like? And what gaps pretty much did you see that made you say, okay, fine, this is the space that I want to venture in for South Africa, the Southern African region, and the East African region where you guys are heavily based in?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think it starts with just looking at bare statistics. Credit to GDP in Africa sits at about 20%, private credit to GDP. It's around 60% for other emerging markets. And ultimately, we consider credit the most important financial solution, within the financial inclusion space. If you kind of go back 30 years, and this probably holds in Western markets as well as African markets, but you look at those people that had access to credit in the 80s. Having access in the credit to the 80s allowed them to buy houses, provide for education or for their children, which ultimately left them in a very different position of wealth 30, 40 years later than people that had to continue going, month after month, pay for rental, and couldn't actually save by using credit and really starting to create wealth rather than consuming the full level of income. So we realized that credit in many ways was the answer to provide sustainable impact rather than once-off impact. And then we realized that one thing that was heavily missing was productive credit. So you get a lot of nano lending businesses, $5, $50 loans, small cycles, weekly credit, but it's very expensive. Over a year, someone can end up spending, more than the loan amount in interest. So we basically designed a 12 to 24 month loan product and said, look, we want to basically go slightly bigger in ticket sizes, $1,000 to $2,000 average loan size, and allow people to pay back over a period of 12 to 24 months. So that at the end of it, they're actually left with something substantial. They've created wealth and they've made changes. So Initially, we built a lot of the credit scoring logic. We used predominantly bank account scraping plus transaction analysis to come up with a score. Then we built up the workflow. And I think ultimately we realized we really wanted to control the entire user journey. That's why in 2019 we then decided to basically start issuing credit ourselves. We bought lenders in South Africa and Kenya, and then we expanded into Tanzania. I think it must have been early 2021. So we're quite excited about the platform that we've sort of built over the past, couple of years, and then how we've expanded and grown that. So, we've really seen things improve, get the product better and better, and really come up with something that truly addresses the need in the local market. And I think that's the other thing, is we've tried to create a product that really can change the lives of our customers and make them permanent customers for us. So that's probably where we started and why we started there. I think on a daily basis, we still see excess demand. I think the credit opportunity in Africa is still tremendously large, and we can't, wait to continue making as big an impact as we possibly can.
So fintech companies in Africa are doing their best to bridge the financial gap, on the continent. How is Fin, doing this better than other fintech groups? What makes them stand out from other fintech groups? Because there are a lot on the continent now. So what's the pretty much selling point, pretty much?
Look, I think the one thing to always remember is Africa is a blue ocean, it's not a red ocean. So markets growing quickly, I would never discourage anyone else from also entering the credit space in Africa, because I think the more the better for the evolving, African middle class. And the quicker that emerging middle class actually grows and African GDP grows, the quicker we all grow. But that being said, I think we're quite unique in our hybrid approach, where we partner with merchants, issue credit through partners, and effectively we have a fully digital solution. But because we embedded at partners, the on-ramp can be offline, which basically allows us to start interacting with customers now, in as much as 90% of the customers are still offline in Africa. So that hybrid positioning between the online and offline worlds, I think, makes us pretty unique.
Interesting. So what have been the positives and negatives running this business? Because small business owners on the continent, of course, you do get the positives of course, this is of Africa. There's access to a lot of resources, but also you get the downsides with certain, maybe the business climate isn't really up to the level, and that could really affect the way certain people do business. So what really has been the high and the low points of Fin, and being that you've of course expanded into other countries, what has been the high points and the low points, not only from a South African perspective, but also from operating in Mauritius, in Kenya and Tanzania, and all these places?
Absolutely. So I think some of the highs to start there has been the launch of Tanzania. That was definitely a big high. The rebrand into a single brand across all our markets, and the enthusiasm of our team getting there. Seeing our team grow over the past 3 years, we have some tremendous executive members now with Sarah, our CFO, and Simba, our CTO. We've really shaped a great team, making the impact for some of our customers. Look, the big low for us has been COVID, right? Where we had sleepless nights every day to try and make sure we basically, get the liquidity to die up, get credit performance stay in line. And then sometimes you get it wrong with one or two of your hires. And I think, fixing people issues is always a low, because it's a big disappointment. You've invested a lot of time, a lot of energy. So where you get it wrong, that's definitely a frustration. But in general, I would say there's been more highs than lows. Obviously, in credit, it's a continuous balancing act, because you need to grow, but then also you need to raise money to grow. So you're always going from lending too little to lending too much to lending too little in a perpetual flow, which does lead to sort of, lows once in a while. But especially since we kind of finalized our executive team, that's helped basically really focusing on the highs, because you really feel there's the capacity to deal with anything that comes up.
Absolutely. So moving on to the products angle, there were two products that really caught my attention. The Medfin and you also have one called eFin. But let's talk about the Medfin, for example, because that one really stood out to me. What made you really venture into the medical area? Like what was that really stood out to you? Because many institutions like yourself, and it's kind of similar because over here in the United States, medical insurance and helping people to get insurance. What made you sort of formulate that sort of framework in South Africa? Because I know it's
Sure.
in South Africa.
So it's all about the opportunity. I think specifically in the medical finance space, similar to the home improvement space, you're looking at sizable loan checks, so loan amounts that are a couple $1,000 oftentimes. We are focused on elective procedures, so you're dealing with people that have insurance often, but not full coverage for certain of the procedures, and you're effectively funding transactions that fundamentally can be life-changing for them. And I think that's where, sort of from a philosophical perspective, it was definitely something we felt we should be involved in. I think it's also, again, because it's larger loan sums, not per se something everyone does and everyone is willing to take that risk and get involved in. I think doctors, once you work with them, are also, they don't drive consumption. They don't try and over-consume people, right? No one tries to sell surgeries people don't need. So you're generally dealing with quite a good fit there. So I think that's how it started, and it took off and it's worked well. I think home improvement, so people, particularly self-built homes, has equally worked out quite well. In East Africa, we do a lot more vehicle and small business focus, which is really a function of how the economy is designed. South Africa is very much powered by the formally employed, whereas we'll see in East Africa that it's very much an informal economy.
You said something about do you have something in East Africa that's like more focused to car insurance? I thought I missed that.
Car lending. So we do a lot of loans for cars. We do also then embed insurance with it through one of our partners. But yes, we fund a lot of vehicles in East Africa specifically.
Okay. And what's the name of that product? Is it
so basically it's Fin car loans, simple and descriptive, I guess.
Oh, okay. So I mean, in talking about Kenya, since you brought up East Africa, because I see Fin Kenya, Fin Tanzania. A lot of people on the western part of the continent are wondering, with all these services that are doing well for people in South Africa, in Mauritius, in parts of East Africa, people in West Africa are wondering, okay, when would you expand to the Western hemisphere, or the Western part of not the hemisphere, Western part of the continent? You have Nigeria, Lagos, Accra, Dakar. Like, these are also booming markets as well on the African continent. So is there any plans on expanding anytime soon, or is just East Africa or Southern Africa right now for the business climate?
Right now, it's very much South Africa or East Africa. I think the investor climate has changed. If you'd have asked me the same question 12 months ago, I probably would have told you within 18 months we want to be present in the CFA zone, Nigeria and Ghana. But I think now is the time to bed down, focus on sustainability, build the right business, and make sure you have a very good platform to grow from once capital markets really pick up. The challenge with the business model of any financial services player is that the product is money. So you need to be continuously capital raising. I think Nigeria itself has some exciting fintechs in the space. I mean, there's the former TMAP, there's Fair Money. It seems to really have had some good businesses come to life. But I think specifically the Francophone Africa zone in West Africa is heavily undertraded and underpenetrated. So that's something that I think is very much extremely exciting in terms of growth potential. Our long-term ambition is to be a Pan-African platform, and you can't be Pan-African without being in West Africa. So we'll certainly look at the markets in due course. But in the current economic climate, we are very much, home markets first.
And where do you position to see Fin in the next 10, 15, probably even 20 years? down the line?
So I think in the next, actually 5 years, we want to build a digital Pan-African banking group that really becomes the financial home for people, where we're not just issuing credit, but we offer you saving solutions, transactional cards, and really create a powerful, fully fledged banking group. I think if you see what an EcoBank or an Access Bank did on the corporate banking side and the sort of high-end private banking side in the 90s and the 2000s, with all the technology out there, there's the opportunity there today to do it for small businesses and consumers. And I think we're perfectly, positioned to execute on that mission and be the digital consumer and SME bank for Africans on the continent. And I think that's the vision we strive for.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Credit, financial wellness, health insurance, car lending, they do it all. Fin, a new startup based in Southern Africa, Mauritius, South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania. Are you based in other countries as well? I always say those 4 countries because those are the ones that I
No, that's where we are now, but it's never doesn't mean we won't be in further countries in the future.
Well, watch out for them in a country near you, Namibia, Nigeria, maybe someday. My name is Paul Lele. Thank you again, Timothy Nuy. They're available on social media platforms, LinkedIn. You can also visit their website, www.fin.com, to find out more about their services and the new products that they're going to be releasing soon. Speaking about products as well, do you have any up and coming products that would be on the horizon, pretty much?
So the biggest one we're launching is FinPay, which will be a short-term credit facility for anyone active on mobile money. So the second that goes live, anyone on mobile money will be able to basically transact with us on credit. So I think that'll go live in the next quarter.
Okay, so FinBank, Fin, watch out for them. My name is Paul Lele. His name is Timothy Nuy, and we'll see you in the next